And now, from Glasgow.
So hello guys, welcome to stage 8. This is titled Servomotor of the Eyelids part 2. And let's do a quick rundown of our parts. So part number 1, we have got the servomotor mount cover. We have got a gear 12T30T, which I think is this one. It's got a smoother side, but if you flip it upside down, you'll see it's got teeth underneath. So rather than doing this, it's going to be more of a grabby, rotatey, technical terms, rotatey. Now part number 3 is it says, I think we're missing, no we're not missing one. So it's calling this a 28 teeth gear. Yeah, it is. It's only got the one. I thought it had 2. I'm so sorry. And then we've got, now it's actually listing this gear on the top as its own separate gear. And it says it's gear 10T, 10 teeth. And then number 5. This is funny because this is actually number 6. That's piece number 4. That's piece number 6. And this is the Servomotor 130. What the 130 means, I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's some technical whiz kids out there that do know. So the last piece we've got is piece number 5, or should I say pieces. And we have 2 shafts made of metal. Shaft times 2, that's all they've called them. And then that leaves us with 3 screws. So there seems to be no spare screws with this build. To be honest with you, I've very rarely ever needed a spare screw, maybe once or twice in the number of builds that I've done. And most of the builds I've had, I've just ended up with about 400 screws left over. So what we need to do is take our ET head from previous issue, and we are going to place in 1 shaft and the gear number 3, which is this one. And that is going in, there's a hole there, and that will go in like that, and this gear will go in there. Now that is ever so slightly larger hole than the shaft, so it's going to fall all the way to the bottom. And then in the next hole along, we are going to place a shaft in there like so. And that's going to go in, give it a wiggle. So what's going to happen is the smaller cog is going to rotate against this one, and then obviously you've got your gears there, and it looks like the motor will sit on there, which will drive that cog, and then the cog underneath will drive this one. Simples. Now it is asking us to grease this bottom cog, so I think what I'll actually do, rather than trying to grease it in place, I think I'll grease it then place it on. And it's the only one it's asking us to grease, which I find a little bit strange. But what's that? I've got a lump in there, a lump of something. Probably had some rubbish on my desk. I would guess it was rubbish. Dried paint, dried glued, who knows, with all the different projects I've been up to. So I'm going to grease that before I put it in. And the way I'm greasing this is I'm going about 3 times more grease than I think it'll need. It only needs a very thin layer, but that grease is going to transfer onto that cog there, and I think that there's at least twice as much there than there is on there, which is why I've guessed it at 3 times. If you think I'm wrong and you think it's 4 times the area, then put 4 times as much on. And I'm just going to run that cog round without the motor, and that should just transfer a little bit of the grease on there. Right, so the next job is the motor, and it suggests that we actually want the wire upwards, which I think would be sensible, because it's not going to trap those wires in, and that will just sit in place quite nicely. And then we're going to put our battery cover on the top, hole there, hole there, hole there, 3 holes, 2 holes inside the motor cover, which are going to coincide with those shafts. So do try to place it. Yeah, sorry, one bit I forgot. You do actually want to run this wire up through, so we might just want to very gently bend these wires up slightly. Don't pull it too hard. So as we bring this down, we're actually lining up 5 different points at once. The most important ones to line up will be those shafts inside, because if you don't line the screw holes up, we can always do fine adjustments later, and this is proving very difficult. It's just not quite lining up properly. Whether that's because the motor is in the way or the shafts aren't in properly, I do not know. Right, okay. Yeah, it looks like that shaft has come out. Okay, so focusing on the shafts, there we go. Once you got the 2 shafts in there, it just slips in absolutely perfectly, to be honest with you. Now, is it telling us to test it? No, it's not, which is a slight concern. Question is, what would happen if we tested this? I think we would get the same result as before. That's not connected to anything. So with this half, I'm going to risk it, guys. Worst case scenario, I'm going to break it and I have to buy a new part. So switch that off. We're not really going to see anything if it works. All we're going to do is see a single cog go round and round, but at least we'll know the motor works. Nothing worse. This may not actually come into action until the end of the build. There we go, that's spinning round. You can't see it because it's spinning so quickly, and I can see that cog there is spinning. Don't know if you can see it. That stop, go. So at least we know that's working, and that's just taken a little bit of weight off my mind. Of course, the drawback now is if when we come to plug this in it doesn't work, it means I've done something wrong, because I've got it on camera that it works perfectly. Right, so that is the end of this build, this issue, and it is the end of this pack, and I'm happy leaving it there. When we finished the last pack, we had this motor that was exposed and all the pieces could fall off. We've got nothing that can fall off, so I'm happy with this. Now the next pack, at the time of filming this, I have already paid for the next pack. I was a touch worried because they've had delays with shipping. This pack came late, but because I'm doing an issue every fortnight, it's all good. Excuse me. So the next pack is actually a 4-issue pack, sorry, a 6-issue pack, which means 2 things. First of all, I can't squeeze 6 issues into 1 month if I'm doing an issue a fortnight. So I'm going to be looking at doing double issues. Not everything will be a double issue, because obviously if I do them all doubles, that's 3. you know, but we'll see. So each time I do an issue, I'll look at the pack size. If there's a lot to do, I'll do 2 or 3 issues. If there's a lot to do, I'm only going to do 1 issue. The other thing as well means that I think we will have the eyelids complete. Obviously what's going to happen is we've got 2 screw holes there. We've got this little notch on the eyelids there. So obviously what's going to happen is that's going to pull that backwards and forwards. With 6 issues, we're almost certain to finish that. Now we saw how this motor works. Because we've not got any circuitry to control it. Obviously what would happen with the circuit board is it's going to run this motor either forwards or backwards. Because it's only connected with this, it's going to constantly run in one direction. So if it wants to look left, it's going to give it positive power. If it wants to look the other way, it's going to give negative power, and that will drive the motor. Let me just have a little. So I'm actually going to connect these up the wrong way. If this is a DC motor, it will do it no harm whatsoever. It will just run in the opposite direction. Yep, that's as I suspected. So obviously what the circuit board will do, if it wants the eye to look left, it will give it 1 second of power, and if it wants it to look right, it will reverse the polarity and then give it 1 second of power and then stop. And that's obviously how that's going to control that. This is obviously going to be exactly the same. It will give it, to close the eyelids, it will give it a bit of power for so many milliseconds, and then to open them it will reverse the power and that will drive it back. You've seen how I reversed the polarity, and this is a principle with the DC motors. That's a little bit loose, but that's not affecting the performance, so I'm okay with that. Right guys, I have waffled on for way too long. So that is issue 6 complete. Very happy with it. Let's do a little face on it as well. Yeah, I really like this. This is the thing. I really like this build, and I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. You know, but we all know what a lot of us think of this company that's running it. So I'm going to get an iron out and I'm going to iron my posters that came with this pack. So take care guys, I'll see you in the next issue, which will be in 2 weeks. I just don't know the exact contents at the moment. Take care guys, bye bye.